Hi, it's Nell, and it's January 2nd, so Happy New Year! I haven't filmed a video in like 3 weeks, so I was like, how do I put the camera on the tripod? Anyway, my first video for 2018 is repotting my Adenium, and I'm going to show you how I do it. And I'm also going to tell you why I'm doing it. So let's head over to my potting table. And here is my beautiful Adenium, aka desert rose. That is the common name. So the first thing that's good to know is that it is considered a succulent plant. These stems are very soft, and a lot of water is stored in the stems, and also the roots are nice and thick, those main roots, so they store water too. Along with this part of the plant, which is called the caudex, and why I'm repotting this is I want to expose this more along with some of the roots, because it gets really fat and swollen, and it gets really interesting. It adds a lot of interest to the plant. So rather than do it in a deeper pot, I'm going to transplant it into this shallow bowl, or I should say shallower bowl than the pot it was in. So the thing with the desert rose is it needs to drain really, really well. And I'm using a local succulent mix that I buy here in Tucson. It's got cocoa fiber, big chunks of pumice, and a little bit of compost in it. But as you can see, it's really chunky. So it came planted in a potting soil, so I want to plant it into this because it'll do a lot better in this. So if you have a succulent mix that's not too chunky, shall we say, or if you want to use a potting soil, you're going to have to add pumice or some small clean gravel to it because you want it to drain extremely well. And this is just a really inexpensive terracotta colored plastic bowl. I got it at Art from Scrap in Santa Barbara, and I sprayed it sort of a bluish, and then I put some gold in it, and now I just sprayed it purple, and I put a couple of coats of seal coating over it. So I think I've gotten my 50 cents out of it. So don't pass those bargains by because they can look pretty darn good. And it has 4 drain holes on the bottom, which is just fine. It's great for this plant because they are subject to root rot, especially obviously if it's out in the rain or if it's raining and cold. It's especially subject to root rot. But because this mix is so light, I don't want it to all go out of the pot when, you know, the first couple times I water it. So I usually put like a coffee filter, or newspaper does the trick too. Just something to keep it from going all bye-bye. And as usual, there's a blog post to go along with this. I'll actually put a little bit more information in the blog post, just trying to keep this a little bit shorter and trying to stick to the repotting. So I'm going to take away some of this soil on the top so I can expose a little bit of this beautiful caudex. This is a plant that is commonly used in bonsai. Oftentimes you see it in really shallow but very wide pots, and it really has an interesting form to it. And speaking of the blog post, I'm going to put a picture of an Adenium in there that retails for $1,400, so you can see how really cool and groovy they get as they age and grow. So I'm just going to continue. Oh, here's some of those roots that I want to expose a bit, because with this plant it's okay to have a bit of the roots exposed. So I'm just going to take away that, and that leaves that, and then I still have the bulk of the roots and the root ball intact. So this is about the height I want it at right there, and it's up even a little bit more because you have to remember that the weight of the plant, even though this plant is not that big, it has a little weight to it, a little oomph to it. So it's going to go down in this really light mix. So I might even prop it up a little bit more, just about there. And then that way, after I do water it in a few times, it will be right at the level that I want it at. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in a little bit of compost. I don't want to do too much, but I'm going to do a handful or two right in through here. And then I'm going to go and fill in with the rest of the succulent mix. And just before I reach the top, I'm going to put in a little bit more compost too. So you can see that beautiful base and the gorgeous roots a little bit closer. And now all I have to do is fill it in with the rest of the succulent mix. I had to go open another bag. Okay, so all done for now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let it settle in for 2 to 3 days. It was pretty wet, the plant itself, because I had watered it a couple of days ago. So I'm going to let it all settle in. I might let it go a little bit longer even, you know, because if it's not drying out too much, then I will let it do that. And it's going to, as I said, it's going to sink down. So probably in a few weeks, when it does that, after a few after a watering or two, I will eventually add more succulent and cactus mix on the top as the whole thing goes down. And then I'm going to top it with some sort of a gravel or a glass chip, because I'm going to a landscape materials company very soon, because I'm going to get some rock to jazz up my side walkway area, so I can pick out something really beautiful to top dress this plant with, because rock on the top is just what it likes, and it's going to be the icing on the cake. Here's a 180 on this plant, just so you can see. The back is a little bit flatter because in the summertime, when the sun is so strong here in Tucson, I am in the desert, in case you didn't know that. I put it in partial shade, so this is sort of the back, but now I can put it out in the sun, and this is what is going to face the east and the south sun. So it can start to thin out a little more then, but these plants are just, wonderful, because as they go, their branches get all kind of crazy, and they get really interesting shapes, and of course beautiful flowers, my kind of plant. More information in the blog post, but there are 2 quick things that I want to mention. One, you don't need to rush to transplant these plants. They can be slightly pot bound, that is okay. And also, you don't want to transplant them during the dormant season. So those are 2 things to know. Oh, and by the way, if you are interested, I can do a video and post on the care of this plant also. But in the meantime, I hope you have found this one to be helpful. It's a fabulous plant. I love them. And I have a lot more videos coming your way this year, 2018, so stay tuned for those. And I thank you for all your likes and your subscribes. I really, really appreciate them. Now, let's get out in the garden, or into our indoor gardens, because many people grow this as a houseplant, and make our worlds a more beautiful place. As always, I thank you so much for watching. Bye!